guest with us this evening. Oh, I did a little tongue tie. We have a very special guest with us this evening. He's no stranger to the show. He's been on before, and we always love having him on. Please welcome back on Animal House Radio the very talented Bill Moseley.
Hey, Dog Will Hunt.
Bill, I hope you're doing well. It's been a while since we chatted with you, and as always, we always appreciate your time here talking with us. So, how you been? All things considered.
It's nice to be back. I got to say, I'm here in sunny Los Angeles, where it's about 72 degrees. It's a pretty nice day. We've got plenty of toilet paper and paper towels. Nobody's sick, and still got a little money in the bank. So I have to say, I think as we approach Halloween, all systems go.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? I hear you. So, this pandemic, nobody knew. It came out of nowhere for everybody. But as an actor, I know you were always so busy, going from one project to the next. Was it a big adjustment for you to have to slow down like this?
Not really. It's actually been somewhat enjoyable. The first couple of weeks of the pandemic when we were literally locked down, that was a little tough. But once things got a little more relaxed, I was able to go out, take the dog out, take a walk with my wife around the neighborhood. Things actually started to get better. Yeah. And we never really ran out of toilet paper, so I think if we had, there might have been a different story. I'm not sure. But,
that's the key.
Yeah, it is the key.
Oh boy! For those of us just joining us, especially via American Forces Network, we're talking with Bill Moseley. He's a phenomenal actor. You may remember him from such notable movies as House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and Three from Hell. He plays the horrifying and murderous Otis Driftwood, and it's such an iconic character. And I just, during the lockdown myself, Bill, I've been watching a lot of. I'm not big on the news because it's just really depressing. So I've been watching a lot of. I don't know if you can classify horror movies as uplifting, but anything that's, not drama, but like comedies and stuff like that. I got a chance to watch Three from Hell, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think that horror movies these days are uplifting because in every movie you're going to watch, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that's always important, because lately things seem to be endless. So, sometimes it's nice to just have a conclusion, for better or for worse. But yeah, I've been doing the same thing. I got to say that I've been catching up on a lot of the movies that I've missed over the years. Night of the Creeps, Night of the Comet, a bunch of different movies, and I've been binge watching really for the last 4 or 5 months all of the X-Files, starting from season 1, episode 1. And just right now I'm at about season 6, episode 15. So there's a lot of X-Files. Yeah. But I'm determined to get through them by the end of the year at least.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of binge watching myself, and I'll tell you what, I think I'm running out of stuff to watch on Netflix and all the other apps.
Well, you know what else I started with was Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Oh, wow.
And that was a lot of fun.
Darren
and
McGavin,
of course you can always... Yes, Darren McGavin. It was only on for a season or two, but a lot of fun shows. And it's great to see actually Darren McGavin resurface on some of the X-Files episodes.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's been a lot of fun.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, it was fun to see him and fun to see how the two of those shows kind of blended into one another. But that's been a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy the relationship between Scully and Mulder, and I think the show is so exciting because it's got so many different directions it could go in. It can be comic, it can be monsters, it can be the deep state conspiracy with the UFOs. There's a lot of stuff, and Scully and Mulder are such versatile characters and actors that really it's just been a lot of enjoyment.
That's I never thought to watch X-Files, and I did enjoy it, believe it or not. But what I binge watched was, and I've seen them all before, but I binge watched Everybody Loves Raymond. I saw all 9 seasons, and Millennium, which was a good
Millennium, very nice. Yes, I've worked with Lance Henriksen a couple of times.
yeah.
Alone in the Dark 2, and recently at Exorcism at 60,000 feet. I've had lunch with Lance. I think Lance is just fantastic. What a great guy, too.
It was a shame that they took that off the air, and I hate when I get invested in something, Bill, and they go and pull it off the air, and it's just crazy because what you said about when you mentioned the Night Stalker, it's funny how the shows that weren't on the longest seem to have the most longevity nowadays. Like Leave It to Beaver was 2 years, maybe 3. Star Trek was 2 years. The Munsters were 3 years. It's amazing how they're probably watched more now than they were back then.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't even know if Kolchak made it through a whole season. I think there were only 20 episodes.
Oh,
And for most seasons, they were 26 episodes. So I think they pulled the plug before the first season was, even officially over. But there's a great Night Stalker movie, and I think the movie came out first, and that kind of spun the series, and that is also really cool. So, yeah, there's a lot of fun there. But I agree, Lance Henriksen. That was actually that was what I was going to do next after I finally finish X-Files, which should probably be in 2021 or 2022. It's a long. It was on like 9 seasons with 25 episodes a season. I mean, it's almost 200 shows, so it's a lot. And I try to just keep it to 1, maybe 2, per night. So that's a lot of. I don't want to, completely, blow my eyesight.
I hear
but I wanted to, somebody was talking about Millennium recently, and so that's, that was actually next up after X-Files.
Yeah. What did you think about the TV show Fringe?
I don't think I've ever even watched one episode of it.
Yeah, everybody used to brag about it. I never got a chance to see it, but I think it was along those like Millennium, X-Files lines, but I never got a chance to see it. But people said, but I don't think it lasted that long either, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I have no experience with it.
So, Bill, let me ask you. You've been performing since the early '80s. And I looked at your resume. It's so impressive, and I wanted to, the heavy emphasis is on a lot of the horror movies. Was that something you intentionally did, or it just happened that you just kept getting work in that genre?
Well, I mean, I love, first and foremost, I love horror movies. So it's absolutely a labor of love. Also, in Hollywood, there's a tendency to pigeonhole. So that if you break into, some kind of prominence via, romantic comedy, then you're kind of stamped as the romantic comedy person.
Right.
It's hard to kind of get from one genre to another, unless you're I don't know what, superstar maybe, I don't know. But for me, I've always loved horror movies. So I find it's a great genre. If I'm the prisoner of the genre, it's a great genre. It's kind of like what I was saying about X-Files, is there's so many different permutations and combinations in the horror genre, whether there's, it's, monsters, it's supernatural, it's Dracula, it's werewolves, it's, crazy, climate change monsters, atomic mutations where suddenly you've got giant ants and grasshoppers. You can really, there's so many things you can do. And then of course, I seem to be especially adept at, kind of backwoods psychos. So I don't know why. I grew up outside of Chicago, so I wasn't in the country around Barrington, Illinois, but I wouldn't really call it, completely crazy backwoods. But for some reason, that seems to be, something I do well. I think of Chop Top, and I think of Otis, of course, and those guys. They're way out there. But but I also, I always do seem to play kind of, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about Johnny in Night of the Living Dead, but I'm just teasing my sister in that, and Luigi Largo and Repo, the Genetic Opera,
Right.
pretty angry and stabbing a bunch of people, but at least I sing in that one. So, yeah.
But that makes a good point, though. You obviously you have such a diverse ability to do other stuff, and as much as you love the genre, does it ever get to you that that you're sort of being pigeonholed? Because the reason why I ask is that, and my condolences about Sid Haig. We were all devastated here when we found out, because we got the chance to interview him.
Great.
And
Great.
one of his things was like he was tired of playing the bad, evil guy. He said, listen, if you want me to do other stuff, I'll do it. But I'm not just, at one point, if I remember correctly, he wanted to walk, or he did walk away from Hollywood for a while.
He did, but then Rob Zombie enticed him back with the role of Captain Spaulding, and I'm so glad that Sid relented and said, "Okay, sign me up."
Yeah.
Because of course I think that was probably, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Sid's most famous character.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he came back, and I guess he finally found out that maybe he just made peace with that choice. That that this is something he did well, enjoyed the fans, enjoyed the work, enjoyed again the variety of different roles that are offered, that are available in the horror genre. So,
Right.
and I think Sid first and foremost, and again that's one of the biggest things I miss thanks to COVID, and that is the conventions, is getting up close and personal with the horror fans. And that, I think, is really telling of whatever genre you're in, or what kind of fans and what kind of people they are that your fan base makes up. And, with the horror fans, they're fantastic. I mean, they might look a little scary with, tats and black outfits and, piercings and whatever else is going on. They drive hearses. But there's some of the smartest, brightest, and most personable people I've ever met. As a group,
and they're
it's really
very loyal.
wild. And I know that Sid just loved the horror fans, and the two of us would go to maybe 12, 15 horror conventions a year, and throughout the U.S. and abroad, and really just had a great time with the horror fans. Never had a problem. Always enjoyed them. Because I like doing what I do, and so do the horror fans. So,
Yes.
It's a mutual admiration society, and if somebody likes what I do, it fires me up, and I'm more than happy to talk about it, answer questions, and certainly pose for pictures and all that kind of stuff. So that's been a big miss, thanks to COVID-19.
Yeah, I really like going to conventions myself, and that actually we did. At the Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, I actually got the chance to meet you. You were actually sitting next to Kane Hodder, and you couldn't be nicer to us. We brought a couple of veterans out to the show, and you're right about the horror movie fans, Bill. They may seem a little odd on the surface, but they're very well adjusted, and I'll tell you what, they're very loyal to their genre.
Yes, they are.
And
and I know that the men and women of the armed forces all across the globe really love. I know in particular that they especially loved the Devil's Rejects, I'm very proud of that. To provide entertainment, whatever nature, to the armed forces across the globe. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely.
I've actually really wanted, I think I've talked to you about it before, but I would love to
the USO?
someday do that USO thing, man. Get out there and, get out to the bases and, shake hands, or I guess now you bump elbows and wear a mask. But, that's something I would love to do.
Well, I'm still working on it. I haven't forgotten about that, but everything's on hold right now, unfortunately.
Sure, understandandly.
America's had such a healthy obsession with horror movies for as long as I can remember. I mean, I go back as a kid to, I was terrified of The Exorcist as a kid. It really scared the hell out of me. And my favorite horror movie character was Michael Myers. But and I enjoyed them up until a point, and then they start. And no offense against the genre, Bill, but then they started to get really hacky and stupid. But I'll tell you what, you know what brought me back? Rob Zombie, because and then he realized this man knows how to make a picture. I gotta say, everything he does is very well done, and it's not just a slash 'em up. It's dark. It's got so many emotions run the gamut. It's not just a slasher film, and then I think it's evident in you know, House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Reject, Three from Hell. I mean, you know, all the things he does, and I think he's the one that brought me back to the genre, because I kind of said, all right, this is kind of stupid now.
Well, it was so funny because after we shot House of a Thousand Corpses, you know, that was in early 2000, and and we shot it on the back lot. A lot of it was shot that the house itself was on the back lot of Universal Studios in Burbank, California, right over the hill from LA. And when we were shooting House of a Thousand Corpses, that was, you know, during the day, the trams were going by, filled with tourists with cameras, and you'd hear, you know, we'd be shooting, and then we'd stop, you know, because a tram was going by, and sometimes we'd go out on the porch and, you know, covered with blood and wearing someone else's skin, and here would go a tram, and, you know, there's the, you know, the tour guide going, and on your left you'll see a movie in progress, House of a Thousand Corpses, directed by Rob Zombie, and, you know, the people would look and, you know, take pictures, and I'd be sitting there covered with blood, waving merrily as they would by.
And at the 8-year-olds cowering in fear at looking.
Yeah, exactly. But then when we were finished with the movie, Universal was not happy with it. And again, that time, you know, around 2000, 2001, there was, you know, obviously 9/11, there was you know, Columbine, there was a bunch of things going on, so that, you know, America, you know, pulled back, and a thing like a House of a Thousand Corpses was not exactly, you know, popular fare, or so thought Universal. So we didn't really, we were ready, you know, we were done in 2000, but we did not we didn't make it to the big screen until 2003.
Oh, wow.
And it finally took Lionsgate. Universal gave it up or put it up for sale, and Lionsgate came in and snatched it up. And, you know, we made our money back opening weekend. But, you know, it did take 3 years of kind of wandering in the wilderness before House of a Thousand Corpses actually, you know, hit the movie theaters.
Oh well, a lot of the studios didn't want. The studio didn't want to touch it. In other words,
there was the politics and of course, you know, public, you know, relations and whatever else was, you know, went into that decision. But it did take, you know, it was on a long delay. And I remember seeing some other movies by the same studio, and that company were accompanied by the trailers of House of a Thousand Corpses. And it was really cool because the trailer actually had nothing to do with the movie. You see a bunch of, you know, men and women in hazmat suits going through a kind of a misty, kind of crude cemetery, and apparently that's where the 1,000 corpses were buried, and stuff that had really, again, nothing to do with the movie. But, you know, those trailers kind of came and went, and then finally, you know, again, after 3 years, the movie came out, and it was such a success that Lionsgate gave Rob, you know, so many millions more, and said, you know, here you go, please make a sequel. And Rob was apparently, you know, he was reluctant to, because a lot of, you know, the slasher movies you're talking about, the sequels were kind of like, you know, watered down, you know, remakes of the original, you know, just kind of an attempt to squeeze a little more, you know, money out of the franchise.
Right.
So Rob didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do, like, you know, House of a Thousand Corpses too. But they gave him the money and they gave him enough freedom. So he came up with Devil's Rejects, which to me really blew my mind. Just because Rob took what was a traditional old dark house movie, you know, kids go to House of Maniacs and never come out again or whatever.
Right.
That's kind of the, you know, formula. But then he turned Devil's Rejects was really kind of like a violent road picture. It was almost more like a Western or a drama. It wasn't really a traditional horror movie per se. And it was interesting because then Otis, my character, in House of a Thousand Corpses, I'm an albino. I have kind of brown and red flecked lenses in my eyes, and I'm just this kind of crazy artist albino guy. And then when we did Devil's Rejects, I turned into what looks like one of the Allman Brothers, with a beard and sandy hair. My eyes are blue. I got a tan.
That's
and
true.
That to me was amazing because Captain Spaulding, in Devil's Rejects is out of makeup for the most part, Baby only laughs her laugh one time in Devil's Rejects. So we completely were transformed by Rob. His vision really was, he changed genres, and that was the amazing thing. I thought House of a Thousand Corpses was a great experience, but then, to see the genius of Rob of, coming in with, taking the same characters, changing them, and then putting us in a whole different kind of movie was really, really a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's not easy to do, and you're right about what you said, that he took, a simple plot, which you see a lot, strangers coming up to the house, the scary house, and he reinvented the whole plot and took it in a whole new direction, and I think it shows in the audience and the moviegoers' response. They love the film. That's out of the three, because I even though it's not House of a Thousand Corpses 1, 2, but they're essentially the same characters. That one was my favorite, especially William Forsythe played a terrific role. I mean, everybody fired on all cylinders on that, and it's not easy to do that because, like I said, with the horror movie fans, they're very loyal and they're very they expect no less than perfection with horror movies.
I'm only sorry that it took 14 years between Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell. I mean, it takes what it takes, and I'm very glad that we finally did a third installment. But I'm only sorry in timing in terms of Sid's health, and that I'm so grateful that he was around long enough to grace the screen in Three from Hell. But I know that it was, that came as a surprise to all of us, not the least of whom was Rob Zombie. And, it was really, it was bittersweet to have Sid on the set and, hang out with him, knowing that he was already, had a condition. And what was really fortunate was that Rob kind of reinvented the script or rewrote the script to include a new character, Foxy, played by the great Richard Brake.
Yes.
Yeah, who had starred in Rob's previous movie 31 as Doomhead. And Richard was, he basically got the call, hey, we need you, to, be one of the co-stars in this movie. And so, he showed up, kind of overwhelmed, but game. And he was a great addition. We really got along from the get-go. Those are big shoes to fill. I mean, especially clown shoes. Those are big shoes to fill. And I thought Richard Brake did a great job in Three from Hell.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? You said something that made me think now with such a long gap between Devil's Rejects and Three from Hell. Was there a hesitancy to do it, or was there a demand from the moviegoers to see it, or Rob didn't want to do it?
Well, I think in movie making, if you can make a deal, you go for it. And I think that, I don't know which came first, the offer or the script or whatever. I'm sure, that's a Rob Zombie question, but I know for me there was a lot of concern just as an actor. My concern was that I did Otis proud in Devil's Rejects especially.
Yes.
And the idea that I was now going to revisit that character, 14 years later, And with Otis having been in prison that long, the question was, how has Otis changed? What remains the same, but what is different? Obviously, 14 years makes a difference in anybody's life, and especially 14 years of incarceration.
Right.
Which I haven't personally experienced, thank God, but I can imagine that's a lot. And so that was the question: was how am I going to approach Otis in Three from Hell? And it was funny because I did what I always do, which is I read the script a bunch of times, and I just kind of made it. I got my bearings, so I knew, okay, I've been in prison, so has Baby. So as Captain Spaulding, time has gone by. There's been all these different things happening. And then, so that was kind of the general bearings. And, my relationships, that's the fun part of doing, a part 2 or part 3 is that you already know, I've worked with Sherry a bunch of times. I've worked with Sid.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
So I worked with Rob. So, all of that was, I didn't have to break new ground there necessarily. But it was really, for me, the challenge was approaching the character. And I remember, I think it was either day 1 or day 2, and I had kind of a mini monologue. I was addressing some newspapermen or on my way to jail or whatever. And I started to speak, and I flubbed a line. So I was like, cut, okay, let's try it again. So action, and, I'm speaking, and by golly, I flubbed another line in that same little speech. And, it was cut, and then Rob's looking at me like, dude, okay, pause it. And I said, give me a second here. And so, I remember sitting down, and this voice in my head said, Bill, get out of the way. And it was the voice of Otis. It was the voice of the character saying, look, I got this, I don't need the insecure Hollywood actor, trying to remember lines or what is my best side and all those very superficial concerns. And this voice was very clear. Just get out of the way, man. Sit down and enjoy the show. And I got out of the way. And so I sat back up and said, okay, let's roll. And, did the speech okay, and just, had a great time the rest of the shoot. That's the important part. Get out of the way.
Yeah, well, it shows in the film. Speaking of Otis Driftwood, Bill, did Rob seek you out for this, or did you audition? How did you come about, and what was it about Otis Driftwood that attracted? I know you love doing this kind of genre, but what was it specifically in the script or about Otis himself that attracted you, that said, I would like to do this, or I can do this?
Well, back in October of '99, I was emceeing a little horror award show, a little outdoor horror award show at Universal Studios in Burbank. And I came made up and dressed as Chop Top, my character from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh, okay.
And so I was made up as Chop Top with a plate in my head and my teeth and a little coat hanger and a lighter, and dressed in a kind of a beat-up tuxedo. And I emceed the little horror award show, which is outdoors on like a little tiny stage. But one of the award recipients was Rob Zombie, and and I they played one of his videos, and I introduced him. I said, and here he is, Rob Zombie, all in character. And he comes out and takes a look at me, and he freaks out on his way to get his little statue, his little demon statue. And it freaked him out because he was a big Chop Top fan, and it freaked him out. He later told me that he thought, he was backstage and he was listening to me, and he was saying, yeah, that guy's doing a decent Chop Top. And then he comes out and he goes, holy smokes, it's Chop Top. So that was how we met. And on a month after that, so it must have been probably late November, early December of 1999, his manager called me at home and said, Rob has just had his script green lighted, meaning green for money, by Universal. and he wants to know if you would, want to play this character Otis Driftwood.
Oh, wow.
And they, and they sent over the script, and I was more than happy to read it, and looked at the script, and I went, damn, this is like that's a big part. And so I called him up immediately and said, damn right, sign me up. So that's how I got the job. I never auditioned, which probably might have jeopardized, because the audition's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
And the fact that Rob had confidence, that he had seen my work on Texas Chainsaw 2, that was good enough for Rob, and Rob was not necessarily a big auditioning guy. At least where it came, when it came down to me, Sherry, and Sid. I don't think none of us auditioned. Of course, Sherry's his girlfriend, soon to be wife, so he better not audition her. But and Sid, he told Sid that he and his brother Spider, as little kids growing up in Wareham, Massachusetts, had enjoyed Sid in some kind of as Dragos from some kind of space TV show for kids.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of it, but Sid was was kind of like the Emperor Ming, and as boys they loved Sid, and so it was a great honor and a great thrill for Rob to find and hire Sid. Again, we talked earlier, get him out of retirement.
Yeah. You know what? Like I said, like I met you and Kane at the convention. I met Sid. We interviewed him, and then I went out to see him because he came to New Jersey. And Bill, I knew he was a nice guy, but I was so surprised, because you're expecting to see Captain Spaulding, and he was the most soft-spoken, gentle man I've ever come across in my life. And he was always. We brought a bunch of veterans out. He was giving them stuff for free and stuff, and even the lady that was with him, I guess, that was handling his merchandise, was getting made. Was, listen, this is what I want to do. Don't give me a hard time. And just a sweet, sweet man.
Yeah, great guy. I think we just it was just about we just celebrated the year anniversary of his passing a couple of weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Not sure what the day was, but it was it's been a year, which is pretty really a surprise.
Yeah.
Of course, with COVID too, that kind of throws the timeline off a lot of things.
Yeah. And Bill, let me ask you, with the character Otis Driftwood, Rob's script are brilliant. Do they allow you to ad lib or improv any of the character, like as far as Otis, or did you have to stick to primarily what was written?
In House of a Thousand Corpses, I pretty much stuck to the script. But then by the time we rolled around for Devil's Rejects, there was a lot more. There was a lot more leeway. I think it's because Rob and all of us had worked together, and so we were more comfortable. And if there was an ad lib, if there was an improv that made sense, that made the movie better, Rob was all for it. And if you throw something out there and it didn't work, then just there it was.
Yeah,
there it went. You went back to And Rob is a great director. I think probably years on the road as the head of a rock and roll band, and really enterprise, because you got trucks, you got big sets, you got makeup, you got band members and all kinds of stuff going on. So Rob is kind of like a CEO, and so he's had to deal with, I'm sure, a lot of different personalities, especially in the world of rock and roll. So he's pretty good at getting what he wants and needs out of different actor personalities. Because all actors are different. Some have different philosophies, some do it differently, a lot of different approaches. There's the there are all kinds of people that that the method actors that maybe if you're supposed to be tired, they want to spend the night in the closet. That's not the way I do it. But so there are a lot of different approaches and a lot of different personalities and psychologies. And Rob was very good at communicating differently with different people, and obviously the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I was interested to know is when you have, I mean, you've been doing this genre for years and you're a master at your craft. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when you have a character, I think Otis is one of the most unstable characters you've ever had to do. And you're a very well adjusted guy. And I know that's always the beauty of acting, but how do you delve into the mind of somebody like that and make it believable? Like, is there any kind of special prep that you do for this, or?
Not really. No, I just, as I say, I just read the script. I make, I get my bearings. I think the best way to play, as I said before, the best way to play a psycho is not to, is basically to look around and think that you're the only sane one in the room.
Okay, yeah.
That's how you do it. If you try to play a psycho, like, "Oh, hey man, I'm gonna get you," kind of exaggerate or try to, pretend or kind of imagine, you imagine like, what would a psycho do? It's not going to work.
You overthink
if you're the
it,
guy,
yeah.
If you're the guy, then everything you do needs to make sense to you, and if it makes sense to other people, that's all the better. But it's got to make sense to you. It's got to, because you're the person. It's a human being, and and if you're comfortable, chopping off someone's head with a chainsaw, well, by golly, or that's fun for you. Then you got to be having fun doing it.
That's one of the definitely a must. I noticed from your project you have a lot of stuff in pre-production and on hold. Unfortunately, with the COVID, it seems like everything's on hold. But I see that you're working on a lot of new stuff. Are you able to get back out, or everything's still on hold?
Well, everything's pretty much on hold. I am. I was lucky. I got just before the COVID hit. Back in November and December of last year, I was in Japan working on a movie called Prisoners of the Ghostland, starring Nicolas Cage. And I was over in Japan for, 5 or 6 weeks. It was really fantastic. Nicolas Cage is just the greatest guy. Yeah. Not only a great, actor who's really just goes for it, but also, very, charming, nice, human being. It was directed by a Japanese director named Sion Sono, Sono. And if you ever heard of him or catch some of his movies, they are fantastic. He's a real treasure, a national treasure in Japan. And this was his first English language movie. He's done a bunch of really cool movies like, Tokyo Tribe, Suicide Club, Hair Extensions, Tag. Anti-porno. Boy, you look at his filmography, and he is just amazing. So this was kind of a mashup between, American westerns and samurai, ninja, Japanese movies, and really just
sounds
really
interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're in post-production right now. I'm sure for a long time. It's got a lot of visual effects, and just everything about it was fantastic. So I consider myself very lucky that I was able to do that, and get that production done before the quarantines.
Wow. And, you got to let us know. Keep in touch with us and let us know when that ever comes out. And we'd love to have you back on. It sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Yes, and then the other thing I do is there's something called Cameo, which is where you book me to sing Happy Birthday to your sister or something like that.
Yes.
That thing I've been doing. I'm doing a bunch of those, and that actually kind of, that keeps the juices flowing, which is great. And I also did a comic book, my first comic book. I teamed with a great illustrator named Simon Kudrensky, and we put out the first CursedCornfieldComics.com issue number 1. And so if you go online to CursedCornfieldComics.com, you'll find this really cool comic book that we did that you can download, and it's name your price. So if you want to give us $10, that's great. If you want to do it for 99 cents, you can do that. But I'd
No.
prefer the 10 books. But, so I'm still keeping busy.
Yeah,
I'm
it
still
seems
doing
like it.
stuff.
Yeah.
And, writing a really, couple of cool screenplays.
Oh
So,
wow. So you are keeping busy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you
still
yeah.
hopping around. Yeah.
I think the biggest decision for you is to make sure you don't run out of toilet paper.
Yeah, well, we've got plenty. I'm not gonna go duke it out in the paper products aisle of
Oh my
my
gosh.
local supermarket again. Man, that was crazy. So
All summer
yeah, we're
long,
good.
I've seen people in the supermarket going fighting over the last package of chopped meat. I mean, two guys like slugging it out like they were in a boxing match over a package of meat. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's crazy.
Yep. Well, these are crazy times, but let's hope that things settle down by 2021.
Absolutely. Now, Bill, do you have a website if people want to check you out?
Yes, I mean all my social media is basically at Chop Top Moseley, ChopTopMoseley. So that's Instagram, that's Twitter, that's Facebook at Chop Top Moseley, and then I have a website which is choptopsbbq.com. So choptopsbbq.com. And it's kind of a crazy website, so you can have some fun with that.
Oh, cool. Definitely. And I want to encourage everybody, and especially all our servicemen and women out there who listen to us and watch us, to check out Bill's social media and show your love. Bill, I want to thank you for your time as always, and I promise you, we just recently got a new overseer for our program. He's a retired three-star general who was the commander for the U.S. forces in Japan. His name is Lieutenant General Jerry Martinez, and I'm going to really put him to task and see if I can hook you up with the USO thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm absolutely, I'd love to do it. I appreciate the service of the men and women of the armed forces, and know that sometimes they get, they're stationed far from home, and I'm more than happy to come out there and shake some hands and hand out some DVDs.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, speaking to what you just said, there a lot of times, they're in remote areas. The bottom can drop out at any minute. They're living minute to minute, and for the half hour, they get to either watch one of your movies or some kind of TV to bring them closer to home. Believe me, it makes a difference, and I always want to thank all our celebrities that come on their behalf for the entertainment value that you provide them. As much as we know that you appreciate their service.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And do me a favor, if you talk to Rob Zombie, tell him we'd love to speak to him.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, Bill, stay safe, continued success, keep in touch with us, and as you always know, you have an open door anytime you want to come on.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, and thanks for your great service too. I appreciate the show.
Thank you so much, Bill.
All right,
everybody. Bill Moseley.
Later.
That was Bill Moseley, phenomenal actor, good friend of the show, and I thank you all for tuning in. And make sure you come back on at 10 o'clock tonight. We got Dawn of the Rising. These guys are a bunch of ass-kicking metal guys, and I love, me, I love heavy metal. And I think you're going to enjoy them. So make sure you tune back in at 10 o'clock tonight to see Dawn of the Rising. We got the whole crew there. We got the Mike Killer. We got Dr. Boom. We got the Beast. We got Iggy. We got J-Dub. We got them all. And I think Killer Keller is going to be my wingman tonight. So we'll see you all at 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time right here on Animal House